Hello, everybody. I am a substitute, so I'm not talking about digital media. And digital media is probably much more fun. What can I do with YouTube? I'm not that. I'm actually discussing enterprise search. But enterprise search in a specific way that is interesting, at least to the search market. So what are we doing? Kona Data Search, we provide actionable insight, which is an ability to find things in your information with an AI-driven search and analysis engine. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. So I started in the search industry in 2001 with a company called Fast Search and Transfer. And we sold that in 2007 to Microsoft for $1.2 billion. How many people understand enterprise search separate from, say, Google? Does anybody? Well, we have a few hands in the audience. Yeah. So enterprise search is essentially Google for your company's data. And what that means is that you have files, you have documents for your support system, you may have products if you're an e-commerce site, you may have content that is operational in your SAP system, sales information in your CRM, like Salesforce. And searching that content is very different than Google, where you might want to find a great recipe for a martini. So getting information out of your corporate systems is a very different technology. And that technology has been around for a long time. And there have been a lot of companies that have been built their information on this. And we started with this type of technology back in around 2001, and one of the realizations we had was this. Searching and finding information out of databases and operational systems like SAP and Salesforce is a very different beast than doing that with web data and documents and social data. The first one is in business intelligence and SQL, and the second one is search and text analytics. And we created Kona in order to bring those two together. And we did that with the idea of also putting Kona out in the cloud. So the other thing we said was, let's put search out in the cloud. Let's make it rapid. Let's make it easy to install and get up and running in 10 minutes. But it still supports clients in the Fortune 500, Global 2000. So that was the issue. So there's the problem. So next slide. And this is Kona Search. In order to find a market where we could see some revenue very quickly, we decided to actually build this thing for the Salesforce market. How many people here are Salesforce users? Wow, just 3 or 4. Okay, see, now if you had Kona, you'd be all Salesforce users. That's for this year. But Salesforce itself has done quite a job in bringing cloud systems to the market, to the professional enterprise market. And I think everybody's familiar with who Salesforce is. They did, I guess, $8.2 billion last year in sales. And what we've done is we provided a search engine for Salesforce, principally because the one that they have with Salesforce doesn't really work well. So that's true mostly for their larger clients. We have 250 million records in our index. And we have clients that range from United Healthcare all the way down to small nonprofits. If you want to jump the slide here, we'll see a few of them. These are the team. Let's jump to the next slide, though. And our markets that we go after are these 5 here, but we didn't actually choose those. They chose us. So when we get a customer like United Healthcare, and they say, we would like to use you in our recruiting office, we're in recruiting. If we get a company like Westcom, which is a bank, and they want to use us for self-service, we're a self-service search application. We have another client that sells used pharmaceutical equipment on their e-commerce site. We search the products. We have clients that are in various different markets, but those are the 5 principal markets we have clients in. And recruiting is an obvious one because what you're doing is matching candidates to job orders. And our very first client for recruiting was Recruit. How many people are familiar with Recruit? Okay, so big company in Japan from the recruiting space, and they were a client of ours at the very beginning. They actually moved away from us because they moved away from Salesforce, but they are coming back again, hopefully. But in any case, they were very much a happy Kona client. Next slide. So what is Kona Search? Well, as I said, it's a search engine in Salesforce, but the best way for us to describe it to you is to actually show it to you. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually leave the slides and show a demo.
では皆様、これからデモンストレーションを見せたいと思っています。まず皆さんご存知のように、普通の Google とか Yahoo の、コンスーマー向けのサーチと社内のサーチは基本的に別のものですね。で、まずこの日本語わかりますでしょうか？もう緊張してますで、アンドリューさんが、人工知能などの新しいテクノロジーをうまく利用して、その社内のサーチをもっとうまくできます。で、従来のテクノロジーは2つの大きな問題点があります。まず、見つけないデータが結構いっぱいありますよ。特に皆さんは、非構造化データって分かります？まず非構造化データ、従来のテクノロジーは見つけることができません。まあ、できないことはないですけど、見つけにくいですね。で、2番目はパーソナリゼーション。自分の各ユーザー別の、のサーチをうまく、見せるんですよ。じゃあまず、僕はユーザーとして、戦略発音しにくい日本語を検索してないと思ってください。で、普通の、これは上のところが普通のSalesforce のサーチですね。ここに戦略を検索すると、11件が出ますね。その同じく戦略を、Is this the code here?
You're in, I think, Salesforce.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the Salesforce.
こんな選んで、
Oh, that's the Kona one. Yeah. Yeah.
で、同じく戦略をサーチすると、14件が出てます。で、なぜかというと、この場合にはアタッチメントも検索できますね。それは一つの例ですけれども、たくさんの非構造化データを見つけることができますね。で、他のことを、例えばね、日本語と英語別ですね。日本語の、アタッチメント方針で見つけることができます。で、この場合ではやっぱり戦略になったら、資生堂さんの社長のスピーチに出てますね。で、これで見てください。それは一つ、たくさんのデータを見つけること。2番目は、もっとパーソナリゼーションするときに、また、I'm going to give that back to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Ron. Yeah. All right, so Ron showed you what is generally referred to as our custom or our standard search UI, but it's just a standard one. What we actually do is our clients have tailored personal search experiences. So we always tailor the search for them. And this is where I think search brings in the whole AI side of the business. We use machine learning. We actually don't use any machine learning. We use deep learning in our core engine to understand the context behind the user. The problem that users have right now is they either find too much information. I search for an account and I come back with 350 different results. Or they don't get any answers at all, which means that they're not getting the coverage that they need within the index. This first one, which is to get a much more relevant, personalized set of results, requires understanding the context of the user that they're in. So if I'm in a recruiting business and I want to find candidates for a job in Tokyo, I don't want candidates coming up from Dallas, Texas. That's a rather long commute. So I would probably want to have geography as a context that's being useful. We have another client who is a construction company, and they have unionized projects and non-unionized projects, and they don't want either side to see the other's projects. So that's the context of the user's privilege. And now, to get that baked into the search means the results come back are a much smaller set, but it's exactly what the customer wants to see or is allowed to see. And that's the difference. So this is an example of a recruiter in Ireland. And in their environment here, you can see we have I've done a search on SAP Director, and that SAP Director has returned 166,000 results. You can see that right here. So you'll see 166,000 results. This is actually a company with 4 million candidates, or 3 million candidates, and 6 million resumes and cover letters. We have about 250 million records, as I said, in our database, so we deal with a lot of volume. In this particular case here, we've searched for SAP Director, but that's an awful lot of results. So what we can do is say, well, I'm interested in SAP Directors willing to make 40 to 50,000 euros a year. So this is for their salary. So that's the facet, and you can see we're now down to 2,000 or 3,000 results. And then I need them available in 6 weeks. So now that's 30 results. And perhaps I'm also interested in getting them around this postal code. The notion of another context that we support is the notion of a radius search. Find me everybody who's 50 miles or 50 kilometers from this postal code. And you can see we're down to 2 results. So in 4 clicks on one little search term, we went from 4.5 million down to 2. So you imagine the efficiency gained by that. Our recruiting clients, they come in the morning, they turn on Kona. They go home at night, they turn off Kona. They spend their whole day matching candidates to job orders. The second thing, though, we've done is where I have a search term at all. If you're sitting in a job order, use the context of that job order to determine what the best candidates are. So they have a button that says, just find me the best candidates. And this is where some of the more of the machine learning comes in, because when they pick the right ones, what did we learn from that? Well, we learned that this candidate's profile meets this job order's profile. So the next time I see a job order with that profile, I will find candidates that are very similar. And we've taken that and we've applied it to e-commerce and products. We've applied that to support systems and self-support knowledge bases, and so on and so on. This is what we get from the Salesforce community in the cloud. So search is tailored, it's contextually aware, and it searches across internal and external systems. So why are we here today? So one of our minor investors in the company at the time, who's now become a major investor in our company, is Basis Technology. And hooray for Basis, because Basis sees this. We are very happy with our relationship with Basis, because Basis is providing what is the next version of what we're doing with our product, and that is to put in much more sophisticated text analytics. But most importantly, Basis suggested that we should open ourselves up into the Japanese market beyond the initial recruit as a client. Now, my father was in the hotel business, in the restaurant business. And I grew up in the Caribbean, in the United States and Canada. And he told me that the reason he was successful in the Caribbean and opening resorts was because he never went in there as an American telling everybody what to do. He went in and said, you need to be native, you need to respect the conditions and the environment that you're selling in. And I said, I absolutely believe that. And so I said, if I'm going to open up in the Japanese market, I want to do so with proper support, local feet on the street, which we're getting from Basis Technology, and soliciting other partners to do so as well. But the second thing also is we want to understand the Japanese language at a textual search level much better than it is today. Because that, I think, is a major problem, I believe, with Salesforce Japan customers as well, which is why we only saw 2 hands maybe coming up instead of more than that. And in general, if we go beyond Salesforce into the enterprise search market in the cloud, IDC and Gartner are saying it's a $700 million business today, and it's a $1.2 billion business in 2020. And this is for the entire Asia Pacific market, but we want to anchor it from Japan and move outward. So what are we looking for some in growth investments? Well, one is on the marketing side, of course, in order to be able to push the story out there, but the other one specifically is to grow in embedded business. People who build applications that require search, we're fine to be in the search for that application. As I said on the Japanese side, obviously establishing local support and operations, but the deeper support for the language is important. So understanding kanji and katakana interrelationships and resolving those searches so they work properly. And we looked at basis technology, for example, did some of that stuff. And on the product standpoint, obviously you need to demand on the language and some other issues. But we really are now pushing around the AI-based text analytics. So looking at higher order sentiment, entities, relationships, and identity resolution. Identity resolution is really, imagine everybody's their footprint or fingerprint out on the web and in your internal systems in your company. These are what we call identity fragments. They're a little fragment of who you are, a little shard of glass. And a lot of these fragments say the same thing, and some of them say the same thing differently. Some of them are wrong, some of them are right. So if you can gather all those fragments, pull them out of all of the content that's out in the web at large and from inside, and then assemble them together to build a single cohesive identity around a person or a company or a product or a drug, then you can do an awful lot with that stuff. But in order for that to be successful, you have to have a way to be able to search that content. And that's our end game, is to be able to bring that together for corporations. And that's moving beyond Salesforce into other systems, going from connectors to content stores to full cloud apps, and embedding ourselves within those applications, and moving from the cloud to hybrid systems. The reality is that while Salesforce has proven that the cloud is successful for professional operations, there's still a vast majority of people who put their content behind a firewall. We've designed our architecture around hybrid, virtual private cloud, public cloud, and firewall on-prem data access. So that's really the future for what we've been planning on doing. Well, thank you very much. And I kept it short. So,